So next we're going to change gears a little bit, and Kyra Wagner is going to talk a little bit about local foods.
When people think of local food, they often think of the farmer's market and the feel-good aspects of growing our own food, ripping up your lawn and putting a garden in. Oh, I don't have time for that, but actually, if we were to feed ourselves, it would be much more complicated than growing a couple of cabbage. So when you look at the entire infrastructure of growing your own food, it takes a community-wide system. So this is about Homer's food infrastructure. When you're looking at an entire food infrastructure, you need to look at the whole system and how it works together. So we start off with production. Here we have vegetables, meat, and fish. We don't have grains. We don't have anything like that that's being locally produced, so you have to consider that. We're already down for the count on that one. But as far as meat, fish, and vegetables go, we do have several CSAs around town. A CSA is a community-supported agriculture system where members buy a subscription to vegetables, and they get a chance to get a box or a certain amount of food every week, every month, something like that, directly from their farmer. So that way, since they're paying up front for their food, the farmer has a chance to get some money up front to plant those crops. So it's a win-win situation. We only have a few in town, so they're not going to feed the whole entire town. If you call local grown in the state, though, we do have Glacier Valley Farms. They have huge warehouses up in the Palmer area that have your main root crops of carrots, potatoes, things like that. And then, of course, we do have small market or small gardeners who do grow food and sell it to their local neighbors and stuff like that, but not necessarily at the market. Next one. Then we have the market. Yay, the farmer's market. The farmer's market has about 20 food vendors, and then 10 more that are prepared food vendors, like restaurants. And it runs from June to September. Hopefully that will extend as time goes on, but still, once again, you have 12,000 people in this area. 20, 30 food vendors isn't necessarily going to feed all those people, but next slide. This is some of the variety of things that you can get at the farmer's market. We have arrowhead cabbage, arugula, all the way down to eggs, garlic, a lot of things that people wouldn't necessarily think that you can grow in Alaska. Our darling farmer's market does carry. Next slide. As far as our beef, our fish, our dairy, all of those kinds of things, we have a local cattlemen's association. It has about 4 members that raise cattle at the head of the bay and around the Homer area. We have fish, of course, as Adela already mentioned. And we have a dairy now on the peninsula up in Kasilof that does produce local raw milk. And of course, there's wild meat. So you can go hunting as well. So as far as production goes, we have a broad variety of a lot of what we need. Unfortunately, we need more. That is the biggest thing. And then there's the question marks that come up with that. Like Adela mentioned, we have ocean acidification. What could that do to our future fish stocks? We really rely on those fish stocks, so if that comes into play, we start having some worries. Climate change is also causing unpredictable changes to habitat, so a lot of our things that we take for granted may not be as easily taken for granted in the future. Moving on to processing. Now this is an aspect that most people don't consider, but if you were to consider that in America, I do believe it's 10 quadrillion, that's what it is. 1 quadrillion BTUs is burned at the farm, 1 quadrillion is burned during farming. I do believe it's 1 is transportation, where am I at here? Getting it to the processing facility. 4 is spent processing your food. 4 quadrillion BTUs of your processing, or of your BTUs spent in food production is processing. The last 3 are what you use with your refrigerators, your stoves, driving your SUV down to get a bunch of bananas at the grocery store, that's all in your own back pocket. So some of our biggest expenditures in the food system is the processing and processing it at home with our Cuisinarts and all of our stuff like that. So processing is a big step, and here in Homer we have some of those large infrastructure things that take care of the processing for us. First of all, there's Coal Point Trading Post. We are so lucky to have Nancy Hillstrand. She has opened her place to be accessible not only for fish processing, which is her main summer business, but also she is completely certified to can and freeze vegetables for sale, as well as just letting farmers go in there and freeze their produce. Next slide. She has everything you could ever imagine, DEC approved canning facilities, flash freezers, a huge a huge commercial steamer. So you could steam all your vegetables, you could vacuum pack them and flash freeze them all there. Then we have McNeil Canyon Meats, takes care of the meat section of that. They process local beef by half or whole cow, and that means they do not package it. Like, you can't go there and say, can I buy a steak? Unfortunately, if you buy a cow, you can have it processed there. But due to regulations, they are not a USDA certified facility. So though they do sell USDA approved meats at Save You More here in town, any cow that goes through that, they send up to Anchorage to get killed officially, and then they package it down here. So there's a little bit of a hiccup in our supply chain that it has to go to Anchorage first before it can be sold commercially. So in the processing, we have our strengths and weaknesses again. We do need some USDA facilities. One of the problems with that is USDA facilities have to approve school lunch, for example. So like a farmer cannot sell any of his produce, even if it's packaged at Coal Point, to the school, because it's got to be a USDA certified facility. So we need some facilities here if we truly want to have a tight circle on that local food infrastructure. Purchase. Okay.
So what does like Coal Point need to have for?
She's looking into that too.
Okay.
It's fairly complicated, but again. So when it comes to who would purchase this, we have it hands down. We have restaurants who want to do local food, local organizations like the hospital. They've gotten on board with having local food or healthy food at least at their events now. So they're thinking, but that's a huge market. When you have the hospital serving 500 kids, that ends up being a lot of food that needs to come down at one time. So not buying it from Safeway, but buying it from your local farmers, that's a huge boon. Same with the schools, if we could figure out how to get it into the schools. And then of course families and individuals, if they knew what the network was set up like, they would probably buy more as well. So we have a huge potential. The weaknesses are availability, access, can you get to it, and do you know how to get to it? So demand, creating that access, education, and availability. First of all, availability. Luckily, Homer is the best as far as high tunnels goes. High tunnel greenhouses have been coming through a USDA grant, and over 100 people in the Homer area have been granted them, which makes the Homer field office, who's giving out these grants, the most productive field office in the country. There's nowhere else that has as many high tunnels as Homer has. With 100 different producers, new producers producing food, with an extended season, that's why I'm so optimistic that our farmers market will be able to have all the more. Hopefully some of these people will be business savvy, do the CSA thing as well. Some people may just give their glut away to the food pantry. Who knows? But anyway, we can keep going. As far as access, one of the problems with local food access is if you don't have a lot of money, it's a lot cheaper to buy a hamburger than it is to buy a head of broccoli. So WIC and ETNIP coupons, they are accepted at the farmers market, and this year for the first time the farmers market is going to be able to swipe the Quest cards, which is like the modern food stamp. When food stamps went to cards, the farmers markets couldn't take them anymore. So now, this, thanks to Ben, the Vista volunteer for the farmers market, we are going to, we're going to have a card swipe program
Wow,
at the
great.
farmers market. And then back in late last year, the state passed a farm to school program and got that started. So that is starting to do some programs, give out some grants to try and encourage schools to connect more with local food. Education. When it comes to the idea of local food, and then you go to a school and students don't know what a tomato is or what part of a celery stalk to eat, you know, you got a problem. So just getting students out into the dirt, getting them growing their own food, getting them trying different vegetables. The Homer Flex High School has got this greenhouse and some beds. They just expanded their garden this year as well. And they have a food program going on where they get a CSA box each week and create some kind of meal off of it and feed the whole school. It's not a big school, but they feed everybody on it. And it's great because it started off where students that cooked it would eat it, but now everybody's participating much more willingly, and it's not weird anymore, so that's pretty cool. Paul Banks Elementary this week, just got up its own, today actually,
Cool.
got up its new greenhouse. So those kids, and that's like K to 2, are going to be able to get their fingers in the dirt, see what radishes taste like, and grow some lettuce. That greenhouse is going to have some tomatoes and stuff in it over the summer as well, so by the time they come back in the fall, they should be able to try some stuff as well. So that's inspiring. West Homer Elementary, they have a program where, like we were discussing before, they use the community garden in the center of town and plant potatoes at the end of the school year, and then at the beginning of the school year, they go and dig them up and take them to the food pantry. So they're learning about that. And then Homer High School this year, for the first time in 17 years, got to have their fingers in the dirt in the Homer High greenhouse. So they got to play around and see what that was like as well.
Cool.
It's community awareness. The whole idea of local food doesn't seem like it would be a broad step, but things like the South Kenai Peninsula Communities Project, that's a collaboration of about 40 organizations in town. That's one of the reasons the hospital has started serving local food, is because through that group, they picked one of their community vision topics would be local food, or healthy food for Homerites. So they've started ramping up the peer pressure from organization to organization. Well, the hospital did all healthy food. Why doesn't the mental health serve only local food at their thing? So it's kind of raised the bar for everybody. Homer Farmers Market got a Vista volunteer this year, hit the ground running, and has been doing all kinds of projects around the community. And then the South Peninsula Hospital Educations Program, the lady in charge of their outreach has been putting food attached to every health education thing that she's done. So just getting that out into the community, not education just for kids, but also for adults. So healthy food. This is the community vision for the Communities Project that I mentioned, and local, sustainable, equitable economy. You know, it's all sounds really good, but that's a special one. Local, affordable, safe, sustainable, diverse food, energy, and water system. This is, of course, ideal. We want it all. But the fact that food even made it into that is showing that there is more community awareness of that now. So as far as demand, we're savvy. We're figuring out that we do need it, but we need to be savvier. So people need to start digging up their lawns, putting in those gardens, but also joining the CSA, supporting the folks that have their high tunnels and trying to get rid of their food, help get it circulated in, let the school know that you want your kids to be eating that good local food, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's local food infrastructure. It's here, we just need to build it up.